Be warned, the following video contains some spicy hot takes. So I wanted to talk about this scene from the end of Can You Hear Me, and why the hate towards it is one of the most ridiculous criticisms I've ever seen thrown at this show. But I think this is worth talking about because I think scenes like this are not only great for developing the characters, I think it has real life importance as well. Firstly, let's go over the scene in question. Graham tells the doctor he's worried about his cancer coming back. The doctor sees this as a big worry for Graham, but also is self-aware about her own social awkwardness. So, because she wants to get what she needs to say right, she very awkwardly but very nicely tells him she needs time to think over what she should say. Graham understands and doesn't even hold it against her if she never gets back to him, because all he really wanted was someone to talk to and listen to him. They both seem to have a mutual understanding here. This is a really sweet bonding moment between the two, the kind which you could argue this TARDIS team hasn't really had since their first episode. But of course, this is the one scene everyone has a problem with. Because, of course, they do. This great moment is apparently a bad thing, actually, because the fans felt the Doctor was ignoring Graham and behaving in a way that was callous or uncaring. And that's literally the exact opposite of what happened here. She cares so much that she wants time to gather her thoughts and get this right and not just tell Graham something off the top of her head because she knows that's probably not going to be helpful. This really shows how critical people are of the 13th Doctor. The 12th Doctor literally needed cue cards to be nice to people and took a whole season to get over hugging. He also sometimes made rude comments right after people had just died. The 9th Doctor was more or less the same way. 10 can also be incredibly rude, and don't even get me started on some of the stuff the classic guard did. But everyone was mostly okay with that. But 13 needs some time to think because she's scared she might say the wrong thing and doesn't want to hurt her friend's feelings. Clearly, a terrible person. I've seen people say any number of things, from she doesn't care about Graham, to saying she's toxic, to flat out accusing her of being a bad person. Imagine being someone that suffers from social awkwardness or anxiety and seeing that being said about one of these characters. What's worse is that this was the entire point of the scene, clearly and explicitly. The BBC even had to point it out in their statement. Yes, the complaints got so bad that they actually had to release a statement. When Graham opened up to the Doctor about his fear of his cancer returning, her response was never meant to be dismissive. The Doctor's friend was scared, and we see her struggling to deal with the severity of the situation. The intention of the scene was to acknowledge how hard it can be to deal with conversations on this subject matter. When faced with these situations, people don't always have the right words to say at the right time, and this can often lead to feelings of guilt. By showing the Doctor struggling to find the right words, the intention was to sympathize with all those who may have found themselves in a similar position. We hope this has helped to address your concerns. Many people even took this as being disrespectful or contradictory to the other messages of the episode, which deals explicitly with mental health. But guys, talking about mental health issues doesn't just stop at bringing up the problems that people go through, it also has to deal with learning about what to do when you're on the other side of it. I see many people get upset or even offended if someone doesn't have the reaction that they want if they tell them something like Graham did, not realizing that not everyone understands how to respond in these situations. Many people suffer from social disorders, anxiety, or neurological issues. Sometimes when someone doesn't know what to say, it's not because they don't care, but rather because they actually just don't know what to do. Many people suffer from this, and kids also have a hard time expressing their feelings in these kinds of situations. The whole point of this scene is to show that it's okay not to know what to say, and it's okay to take some time to think things over. But fans say, what about Graham? Graham is the only important person in this scene. No, he's not. Graham and the Doctor both suffer from two very different types of anxiety, and this is actually consistent with the way that 13 is characterized throughout the rest of the show. Now, I'm not saying his worries aren't valid, but Graham was worried his cancer might come back and just wanted to talk to someone about it. That's literally it, and after he gets done talking with the Doctor, his mind is actually put somewhat at ease. The scene is trying to point out that it's not always about what the other person says. Sometimes it's about just being there for them in any way, even if they can't express themselves. 13 just being there, assuring Graham that he was heard and that she cares enough to think through her response, is all the comfort that he really needs in the moment. It doesn't undermine the rest of the messages of the episode, it's just one more facet of the conversation. There's also maybe another reason why so many people had problems with this scene. People are probably getting upset here, but I really can't help but think it's probably a sexist element that some people aren't even aware of. Now stop, I know the knee-jerk response that you're probably having right now, and I know that it's definitely not a case of obvious sexism, the kind that's easier to spot, but rather internalized sexism, which is harder to come to terms with. Now I'm not trying to say that if you have a problem with this scene that automatically means that you're a sexist, but I do think some parts of this argument are stemming from that place. No matter how hard we try, we risk picking up bigoted ideas by sheer virtue of living in a bigoted society. Which is why it's important to constantly reevaluate ourselves so we don't fall into poor ideologies. More or less, other doctors can be as cruel as they want, but when the 13th needs some time to think things through, she's treated as a cold, heartless person. I think some of this stems from an ingrained expectation of female characters to be supportive and do all the emotional labor for the men in their lives. And when that doesn't happen, internalized biases pop up. How dare the woman not play her societal role by comforting the man? I know many will deny this, some of them rightfully, as being the reason that they or others hated this scene, but that's the thing about some internalized biases. You're not always aware that you have them. Again, I just want to stress that obviously there are people that just dislike this scene for other reasons, but really ask yourself this question. Would you hold any of the other doctors to the same standard that you do 13 in this moment? To wrap this up, I think it's okay for women, and anyone for that matter, to be socially awkward. It's okay to not know what to say in a loved one's hour of need, or when put in a high-stress situation. And it's not anyone's job to take on all the emotional labor in a relationship. Scenes like this are important to help us understand that. And for the people that continue to have a hard time with this, I'm sorry to break it to you, but the doctor isn't the toxic and uncaring one here. Maybe it's actually you. Hey everybody, my name's Nick, and while I did the voiceover for this video, scripting and editing was largely done by co-owner of this channel, Lucy. If you'd like to see/hear more Doctor Who related content featuring the both of us, subscribe to both this channel and the Ponderer, where I regularly post our discussions about episodes of this show and its spin-off Torchwood. Right now we're finishing up some stray stories from Series 2 before we discuss the 2010 specials and Children of Earth, so stay tuned for when those drop, and feel free to leave your own comments to join in the discussion.